After 11 o'clock at night, the sky was freezing and there were fewer pedestrians and vehicles on the road, making it extremely deserted. But it was widened and the lights were unusually bright. The street lights on both sides pulled out a mighty perspective, gorgeous and long, all the way to the horizon. The speed of the taxi was so fast that it rushed past them at once. They sat down in a food stall on the side of the road. It was her proposal. She said she likes food stalls. He certainly knew it, just trying to save a little bit for him. They sat near the stove and ordered 2 bowls of fried noodles, 2 grilled fish, and 2 bowls of tomato egg soup. Although it was close to the stove, it was still cold, and the warm air in the bed had already faded away at this moment. He straightened up the collar of his coat, inserted his hands into the sleeves, and stared at the fire in the hearth. The soup came up, and when she was drinking the soup, he looked at her seriously for the first time. The blush on her face had already faded away. Her face was cold, a little yellow, and the eye sockets were also a little blue. It's not pretty, it's a very common look. However, during her sex, her thin and strong waist is really attractive. How come her waist has so much buoyancy? A winter wind came. The wall of the food stall is actually a piece of plastic film, which was bent by the winter wind and swelled up like a side of a balloon. The light bulbs above their heads also swayed, and their figures swayed from side to side on the ground, like a bed, intense and entangled. He looked at the shadow on the ground, remembering the details after meeting her, and suddenly there was a kiss, wanting to hug her and wrap her tightly in his coat. There was an apology here. No matter what, he shouldn't have invited her to such a place at such time. Next time, I must invite her to a decent place. Next time, at least, there are real walls around. Holding the soup bowl with both hands, she was very involved, and she swallowed the last big amount, out of breath, and sighed, "It's delicious." He pulled his arm out of the sleeves and touched her cheek with his hand. Her cheek rubbed against his palm, completing this soft touch for him. "So happy today," she said. "Yes," he said, "so happy today." His thumb slid over the corner of her eye. Happy is a real ghost. When it leaves, it just leaves, but when it comes generously. The owner and chef of the food stall seemed to be exaggerated, and he was very happy. He lit a cigarette with the bright red tongs and was whispering something to his female helper. It was probably a joke. The female helper's expression was there. She also looked like a country girl, and the flames in the hearth jumped on her open face. Except for these 2 pairs of men and women, there is no one else in the food stall. It's freezing cold. While he was happy, he talked to the boss of the food stall. "It's so late and no one is here. Why don't you get off work?" "How can there be no one?" the boss said. "The second driver of the taxi is about to eat, and there is still the last round of business." After the dinner, they withstood the cold wind and walked on the road late at night, which was about 40 to 50 meters. Under a street lamp, he wrapped her in a coat and then leaned against the electric pole. He clung to her and kissed her at the same time. The kiss is very good, with the taste of fried noodles, grilled fish, and tomato egg soup. It's all free. He let go of her 2 lips and said, "It's delicious." She laughed, and suddenly she felt a little embarrassed and buried her head on his chest for a long time. She tightened his collar, raised her head, and said, "It's great. It's almost like love." There's another gust of wind. His eyes had to be narrowed. When the gust passed, his eyes were free and he smiled. "Isn't it?" he said. "It's almost like love." She kissed him back. He patted her butt and said, "Go back. I can't send you. I should also go to work."